Good evening, everyone. And as we, especially as we continue to cope in these COVIDic times, welcome to the Pod Couple podcast number 6. My name is David Gerard, and I'm your host. Although at times I'm joined by Dave, who who claims he's my brother and makes the odd cameo appearance, but marches to his own plumber. I have a short announcement to make prior to going down the slippery slope of podcastism. And yeah, one thing I would like to do is if someone can just let me know, it's sound that's important. So just let me know if it's okay. One makes 4 grandsons. So I now have 4 grandchildren, and they are all boys ranging in age from newborn to 3 years old. And another baby expected in about 6 months. Wonder, maybe, I don't know. I can only imagine what they will get into when they all get together in a few years. They might anger their parents, but Grandpa, moi, will be having a good laugh. I have 4 sisters, and my son has 4 sisters as well. I guess all that time spent hoping and praying for brother finally came to fruition in a way, albeit more than a half-century late. I'm very grateful for all my children and grandchildren and feel I've been blessed with an abundance of riches, not of the monetary ilk, but you never know. They might get rich enough to buy me a cup of coffee one day. The definition of idiocracy is a government run by, hold on, they just changed it from idiots to some dude that goes by the name of Donald Trump. Not surprised, not surprised. And one thing that I'd like to mention is that kind of about the hat I'm wearing, which is, I think it's all squished up in the headset, but that's okay. It's a French beret, and that's sort of a nod off to my my dad's side of the family. And actually, it was purchased in France by my sisters. That's what I asked for when they were there. All 4 of them were there at the same time. And I kind of had lots of air miles, so I kind of threw some their way. And I realized later, maybe I should have used some on myself, but no, it was, they had a really good time. And they also would take this guy, Patrice. See, he's got a beret on too. And they would take him everywhere with them. They'd take him to the bar. They'd take him to restaurants, I guess, and wherever. And they would sit him on the table. And so I guess I was there in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, my day was crazy. Just before I get going again, I had this set up last week where I could do a screen share, and everyone could see what I could see on my screen, kind of, and when I wanted it, sort of thing. So if I read a poem or something like that, or that there would be, you'd see the words there, and whatever. And plus, it's you don't get tired of looking at my ugly mug or anything like that. So, but it just didn't work. And what I think happened is there's a couple of things. One was Facebook, I think, is the biggest culprit, and they changed a lot of their software so that both. Well, actually, my other machine doesn't even work doing the Facebook Live, so I've got this one laptop and it's working just fine. So there was that, plus you had to use a certain version of Chrome, which was a beta version, and so I was changing software back and forth in both things, and before you knew it, I was really messed up. So anyhow, it's all done. We're here. We're good. No comments in the comment line. I wonder if this is broadcasting properly. I hope so. Anyhow, I'm going to go through with it because it will end up on my page. I'll just check one thing here. Someone make a comment. Okay, so this next thing is just something I wrote up the other day, and it's I never tell too many people about my work, and this doesn't really describe my work, but it was just a work experience, I guess, and I call it Land of the Midday Sun. It was in the middle of December '83, give or take a year or two. And I was working for in Edmonton, Alberta for Dresser Atlas, an oil patch wireline service company. We got all of our equipment prepared for a job in the Beaufort Sea. And the next morning, we arrived along with the gear at the airport in Edmonton, the industrial airport. While waiting for the first flight from Edmonton Industrial Airport to Yellowknife, I decided to purchase an adventure book to read on my journey. I thought, geez, I haven't read a book since I left high school. Hold on. Come to think of it, I don't remember ever reading any books in high school. Definitely not cover to cover. I perused 2 or 3 racks of books, wondering why all book racks and bookshelves don't start at 3 feet above the floor and then go as high as practical, or better yet, build orchestra pits directly in front of them so you can be lowered 3 feet in order to easily access the bottom shelves. Made sense to me. Some people are in desperate need of lessons on critical thinking, as far as that goes. Anyhow, I eventually chose the book Alive. Alive. Yes, I did. I said alive. Because the cover told me it was a true adventure story about sports figures and their friends and families in the Andes Mountains. What a wonderful setting. The anticipation was palpable as I was so eager to begin reading. We boarded the plane. We boarded the plane in early morning just after it had been de-iced. We took our seats, buckled up, the plane fired up, taxied, and took off without any problems. Finally, I began to read the book. I hadn't read very far into the book to realize that the plane with some of the Uruguayan national rugby team players and those they loved crashed in the Andes. So of course I was thinking, you know, this is my first work excursion away from the 4 western provinces, and only the first leg of a possibly 4 to 5-leg journey. sorry, what have I gotten myself into? Reading on in the book. Facing starvation and death, the survivors reluctantly resorted to cannibalism. After 72 days on the glacier, 16 people were rescued. I read the entire book during my journey north, and the further north we got, the more I became agitated, and the more I thought about which of my fellow passengers might be the fastest if crash comes to shove. I immediately ruled out Bill Rowe because he was my one and only workmate on this excursion, and we worked well together and had each other's backs, which would come in handy to defend against a hangry horde. The first leg of the journey was 993 kilometers north from Edmonton, Alberta to Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories, where we deplaned for fueling. Yes, I had made it to Yellowknife, where Dad spent some time during the war. And while there, he made a crib board out of caribou horn. When I was young, he taught me to play crib on that very board that he'd had made, and told me that if you learn to play crib, you should be able to play almost anywhere. Even though I didn't leave the airport and was only there a short while, I felt a bit of a connection to my dad. Just looking for comments. The second leg was 1,100 kilometers northwest from Yellowknife to Inuvik, Northwest Territories. The third leg was 124 kilometers north from Inuvik to Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, where we had to hang around for a couple of hours until the time and flying conditions were optimal. The fourth leg was in a Twin Otter, 70 kilometers northwest from Tuk to Pullen Island, Northwest Territories, in the Beaufort Sea. Tuktoyaktuk is at the 70th parallel, which is the same as the northern tip of Norway. Pullen Island was uninhabited, covered in ice and snow, in the middle of the Beaufort Sea that was covered in ice and snow. Not much contrast. It had an adequate runway for Twin Otter-sized planes with a building and fuel drums near one end. The fifth leg was on a helicopter approximately 30 kilometers northwest from Pullen Island to our destination on the Caisson rig in the Beaufort Sea. This was my first helicopter ride, which was simultaneously exciting and scary. Just after we lifted off and began the last leg, sorry, lost my place. Just after we lifted off and began the last leg, the guy beside me asked if it was my first time in a chopper, and I said yes. He asked, "Ever heard of a Jesus bolt?" I replied, "No, what is it?" He then said, "It's the bolt that holds the main rotor in place, and when it fails, people yell Jesus because they realize they're off to a new destination." I thought a lot about Jesus on that final leg. As we approached the rig, the chopper banked sharply and swooped down towards the snow, with alarms wailing as we chased polar bears away from the rig, and repeated that maneuver a couple of more times, like a roller coaster ride, and finally set down on the helipad. Oh, just having a bit of a problem here. Once we settled in our new residence, I soon understood that we were the meat behind the walls, and the bears are waiting for us to make a fatal mistake. So we had become both people bait and bear bait. We checked out our equipment, then waited. Besides playing crib ad nauseum, our daily ritual was to go outside at noon and look over the caisson walls to watch the sun break the horizon, rise until you could see about a half of it, and then it started to set again. I can't remember how long it took, but I know for sure it was less than an hour. Who would have thunk, being in that kind of situation? After 10 days of micro sun observation, we were sent home because there were problems with the rig. So we took the same journey in reverse, but I didn't say Jesus as many times. And I wasn't reading a book about a plane crash where the lucky survivors got to resort to cannibalism. We got back to Edmonton, or when we got back to Edmonton, we checked in at work and went for some long overdue drinks. We were definitely happy to be back. Afterwards, on my way home, I was thinking about all the things I need to do over the next couple of days. I got home, and within an hour the phone rang. I answered it to find out that we had to travel back to the rig in the morning. Bummer. The trip there and back for a second time was mostly uneventful. We performed our work, played a few games of crib. Thanks, Dad. And just before we departed, I noticed that Alive was still alive in a well and must have hooked another fish because it was no longer in the common area where I'd left it. Okay. Just want to see if... I don't know what's going on here. I'm just going to keep going. I'm starting to get sidetracked, wondering if this is going out to anyone, because I'm not getting any comments. So, get a drink here. Whoa. Yeah, staying on the same theme. This is, actually I wrote this one recently. And I know by the, from the end of the poem, but it's called Far North Soul. I wish I were a far north soul. I'd learn to do the kayak roll. But in the middle of winter's chill, the boat won't sink on snow and ice. It's hard to drown and kind of nice. Don't need a life jacket to make me float, as my ego and pride bloat and gloat. Soon I'm cold and sore from rolling in snow, because I left my Speedos and goggles behind. So I'm stark naked. Have I lost my mind? I go back to the igloo to warm things up, 21 digits and a bear behind. What's in the pot from which I will sup? I added more ingredients to the igloo stew, then checked my phone for messages and calls to discover there are quite a few. I fire up the computer of bytes and bits to see what's trending with the Inuit. Yukon, Northwest Territory, and none of it holding steady at 0. BC 348. I look through the window of my igloo today at St. Paul's Hospital, 1 block away. It all seems so unreal and surreal, but in truth the cold, hard facts do reveal that the invisible enemy is knocking at the door. I say, stay away and go fuck yourself. I'm staying in with ample food on the shelf. Seems cliche and even a crime to live and wait one day at a time. I wish I were a far north soul. I learned to do the kayak roll. Oh, I hear my, just give me one sec here. Just checking my phone to see. No. 1 minute. Just want to check here. Well, I can see myself on my phone, so that's a good thing. I got about a, let's see, maybe an 8-second time lag. So I'm definitely recording. I'm sorry I can't see any comments. If there's anyone watching, or if anyone would even wish to make a comment. I'll read them later. I'm sure there'll be one or two. So I got, okay, here's a bit of fun. This I just wrote recently too. So I've had got a lot of new material. It may not be so good, but I've got, at least it's new material. Okay, this is called the triangular law. The pyramids were first erected about 4,500 years ago, and many, many years later, a man was contemplating over them. Pyramid, triangle, yes, an inverted triangle. And although it didn't quite suit his purpose, it worked just fine as a weather vane. So it would be, you would, this is my nice shiny triangle. Oops, gotta get it. So for the weather vane, it would be on the it's inverted, it'd be on the pointy axis. So the weather vane has mostly gone the way of the rotary telephone and black and white TV. So just in case you can't remember what they are, or if you lived your entire life in the city, I will explain. Weather vanes are metal castings, usually of an animal such as a cow, pig, or horse. They're fastened to a roof and designed to point in the direction that the wind is blowing. They were also a beacon for stray animals, because all they had to do is look up at the animal on top of the structure to know in which direction they should go. They called this the herd mentality, because even if the others were too far away and spread out to be heard, the stray could see the direction in which to go in order to meet up with the unheard herd. Study hard, because there will be a test later on. Next, he tipped the inverted triangle 90 degrees on its side, and that too did not serve his purpose, although it would work well as a flag. So I almost have to get further away, or yeah. So it would get hauled up the lanyard like that, and it would flip this way. Yeah, like a pennant type flag. And one could fasten more than one on the halyard for raising up the mast. Could you imagine what would happen if you stacked a bunch of different veins one on top of each other. This would be very confusing for the strays. He then tipped it another 90 degrees so it became a triangle on a wide base, like this, and decided to take a break. So he began to meditate and chant, Om, Om, Om. And sometime later, a flickering light permeated his thoughts. And Ohm, as in Georg Ohm, came up with a new theory, Ohm's law, and wrote it into the triangle. So that's in here sometime. There we go. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's Einstein's. Let's see if there we go. That's Ohm's law. So it's V, voltage, equals I times R, which is current times resistance. Or, and it's kind of neat the way the triangle is, because it's V equals IR, I times R. And then I equals V over R, and R equals V over I. Isn't that just the best? Georg Ohm came up with the Ohm's law in 1827. Alexander Graham Bell invents telephone in 1876. Thomas Edison the light bulb in 1879. This story is based on faction, about 90% fiction and 10% fact. The three gentlemen did in fact come up with inventions, but Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb. But he did invent a marketable version of it. So how are we doing here? Okay, let's keep going. This is it's about when I was young, probably about 7 years old. It's called it's a story, I guess, called Scavengers of Youth. Adorable pup, ugly mutt Trixie is a new gal pal for Tabby Ginger. Mom gets mad at Ginger for spraying on the clean laundry. That cat must be smart to work the tap and hose, but kind of dumb for spraying on the wrong pile of laundry. Should have sprayed on the dirty pile. Day after hour, Trixie barks at the scavengers of the sky and can't do tricks like Big Sire Rex from next door. But maybe his friend Granny can teach Trixie tricks. We should have checked if she could even do tricks before giving her that name. Someone called Trixie an ox-eye Mormon. I remember Dad saying the Hutterites and Mennonites are nice, so she must be too. A few months later, Trixie dropped some litter and a bunch of puppies crawled out. I looked at them all, but could only see the one with a light gray coat, somewhat familiar face, and blue eyes that speak without talking. I want Smokey to be my dog. Sometime later, we had to give all the pups away to people that will give them a nice home. because we can't afford to keep them. I begged, pleaded, and cried to keep Smokey. Only Trixie is left, and I wonder if she misses Smokey like I do too. Some of my friends say that the pups were probably gunny-sacked and tossed in the salt chuck to sink, drown, and become food for scavengers of the ocean. My dad wouldn't tell me a lie, but I never asked him if the pups were sacked. I heard Mom and Dad talking about spading and fixing Trixie and Ginger. Instead of fixing them with a cold spade, I think a warm heart would be better. Ginger is still regal, and day after hour Trixie barks at the scavengers of the sky. Smokey's face sort of reminds me of Sire Rex. I like him too. Okay, oh, we're there already. And how much time? Okay. Okay, now I'll be off script for a while. Yeah, about the same time as Trixie, we were living on Walker Hook Road, Salt Spring Island, and it was on the northeast shore of the island, and it was great. You come from the city right to a place like that, you know, and the ocean and farms and all that kind of stuff. And you know, it wasn't unusual to see quite a few bald-headed eagles along that stretch of road from the place where Fernwood Dock is, maybe a little bit past. And then even back past our place, there was still some around there. So eagles everywhere. They had ideal places to I think they mostly hunted from them, but they might have had nests there too. I can't remember. But the reason they were good for hunting was because the trees would they'd lean over from the shore. They'd lean over the ocean, so they give them a good view for fishing. Yeah, and beside us was where Sire Rex lived with Granny, the mill nurse. Sire Rex was a big lab dog, and I call him Sire. No one called him Sire, but I call him Sire because he sighed a lot. So not like in Sire in the, you know, above everyone else Sire. And you know, also there, her Granny's daughter and her 6-7 kids, I think, they moved in with her, and so we had a whole bunch more, you know, neighbors, and they were all kind of around our age. But the first ones I met were the Byrons. And they lived up the hill a ways, and they had 10 kids in their family, and their cousins, which lived not too far away at the time, there was 10 as well. And I was going to run through the names, but that doesn't matter. I can remember all of Terry and Marge's kids, and the ones that I spent a lot of time with were Linda and Ian, and they were like my age and 1 year older. So we go up there, and they taught me things like this would be a typical day going up there, up to their place. Climb up, go through the sheep field, climb over the fence, walk up the hill, keep walking up the hill and over until you can kind of see the house. And if there's a salt lick out there, in a handy little rock, I would chip a piece of salt off and then just lick it on my way up, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, but that's what we did. And we we just had a blast. But the thing is, when I went up there, they, if the one time I noticed it, the first time I really noticed it was when their dad said, "Oh, what's Dave doing here? I didn't know he was coming up." And they said, "Oh, we thought we told you." So then he gave them some more chores to do. And so that was the thing. Whenever I visited them, we wanted to play, but we had to do chores first, right? And if I was there, the amount of chores went up accordingly. So we did a lot of working, but we also did a lot of playing. And I remember one time they got me to, there was an old bloated cow right near the tree line, just a little bit off the field, sort of. Bloated dead cow. And they said, "Hey, David, why don't you just poke a hole in it? Here's a," and they gave me a sharp stick, and here's a sharp stick. So, okay, just hold on. I'm going to get this from my daughter. Hello? Yeah, can you see me online? Oh, well, I'm recording. I must have put the things wrong. So what I'll do is I'm almost done, and I will, I'll just put it on my timeline. Sorry, I did something wrong. I was wondering why there's no comments coming up. Yeah. Yeah, I'll put it on my Facebook, and you can maybe tell some of them. I'm almost done. So, all right. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's good. All right, thanks. Bye. Well, just as I expected, no one can see the video, so I must have done something wrong, like whether it was public or for my eyes only sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is, well, it's not even worth saying this, but what I will do is put it on my timeline once I'm done. So anyhow, we're back to the Byrons. Yeah, and it was just a good place to be. Every once in a while, you'd do a slide in a real wet cow pie sort of thing, cow patch, and have to get hosed off. And when I poked that bloated cow, it stunk and stuff came out, and yeah. And what else do I remember? I remember Joe. Joe was a black rooster, if I've got that right. And he used to torment the kids and everything, torment us. So finally one day, Ian's older brother, Ken, got each of us to grab a wing, because that thing was really, and we were kind of getting flapped around, and then he, did the deed, and Joe was no longer. But yeah, crazy. Okay, now I'll finish with this. Is like a song, I guess, a poem that can be sung, and it's about at Byrons Place and the stuff we did. So I hope I don't lose my voice on this one. Anyhow, it's called Raw Ride. Ride a pig, ride a cow, it don't matter what or how. Whirling, twirling, spinning, grinning, going so fast you think you're winning. Rawhide, scrape the side of the fence, take a hit to your pride. Raw ride. Mount that piggy, crank its tail like an old Model T, it never fails. Off so quick, nearly left my rear behind, seems my authority's been undermined. Rawhide, scrape the side of the fence, take a hit from your ride. Raw side. Falling, rolling, coming to a stop and slop. Can't see no sky, got some sty in my eye. Up my nose, all over my clothes. Need a good rinse with the rubber hose. Rawhide, scrape the side of the fence, fly through the sty. Raw slide. Trade that pig in for a cow, it's much bigger than a sow. Jump on from behind when she ain't looking, got a hard-ass seat and now she's cooking. Raw ride, came without a mane, odds imply there'll be some pain. Don't take long before I get bucked off, trade my lucky stars to drop anchor in a trough, but I land head first on the hard-paid ground, out cold for a spell till I come around. Rawhide, a real hard ride, me and my pride cast aside. Ride a pig, ride a cow, it don't matter what or how. Whirling, twirling, spinning, grinning, going so fast you think you're winning. Rawhide, my skin's worn thin, take it on the chin. Rawhide, how I tried, couldn't ride, lost some pride, and a lot of skin. Okay, that's it, folks. Sorry about the mix-up tonight, and I'll get that on my timeline, and hopefully you'll all get a hold of it, and I'll figure out exactly what I did wrong. Anyhow, signing off. Peace out. God bless you, everyone.